What is sim racing really all about? Maybe for you it's about driving your favourite cars, maybe it's about driving some of the most iconic racing circuits in the world, or maybe it's about the racing. If the latter is correct in your case, then this is where things are going to get very interesting. Welcome back to our ultimate beginner's guide to sim racing, and so far in this series we've covered how to get used to driving your car around the circuit safely, we've covered racing lines, how to learn a new circuit, and then we've also gone over how to improve your driving by turning down your assists. It's finally time though to get out on circuit and race against other cars, because as I would suspect for a lot of you, that is what sim racing is all about in reality. Now, before we get stuck into this particular episode, I would highly recommend going back and watching the previous 3 episodes if you haven't already, because there's no point learning how to race if you can't keep your car on the circuit. Now, whilst it is very tempting at this stage to go straight into an online race against other real drivers, there's a good chance if it's your first race, you're going to end up in someone else's bumper or probably in a barrier. There's a much better way of going about things first to kind of get warmed up and get used to racing, and that is by racing against computer-controlled opponents in the form of AI. The majority of racing games allow you to race against these computer-controlled opponents, and honestly it's the perfect testing ground to get used to racing because it's safe, you can crash into them and no one actually gets hurt. You can obviously learn how to overtake, how to defend, and just how to be around other cars on circuit. So let's jump in and go through our very first race weekend. Just one last thing before we dive headfirst into today's video, a shout out and a thank you to our sponsor for this video and series, trophi.ai. Essentially, trophi.ai is your very own personal trainer. If you're braking too early for a corner and you're using trophi.ai, trophi.ai is going to tell you that you're braking too early for a corner, and it's going to tell you how to adjust this. Basically, it analyzes your driving in real time and can provide professional level feedback to improve your skills as a sim racer. I highly recommend checking it out, and if you do want more information, check out the link in the description below where you can find out all about trophi.ai, and a reminder once again, we will be using this later in the series, so you'll get a little glimpse at how it all works. First things first, we have to of course set up our race session. Now, for the purposes of this particular video, I'm going to use iRacing because the AI racing on iRacing is actually pretty good. They behave in a kind of natural way, and there are lots of different things you can influence in terms of settings. But honestly, it doesn't matter what your chosen sim is. Keep using the one that you're comfortable with. You can find AI racing under a number of different names, single player race, AI race, something like that. You should be able to find it. Now here in iRacing, down the left-hand side of the screen, you can see AI single player as an option, so I'm going to click on that. And then, on the top right of the screen here, we can either create a season, create a roster, or do a single race, which is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to click single race, and now it brings up our race session options. Now, depending on your chosen sim, you're going to have a different array of settings. It might be really simple, you might just have to pick a difficulty level, number of laps, and away you go. Or like iRacing, you've got lots of customizable options. So I'm just going to run through an example of me setting up a session here on iRacing. So first of all, race sessions. Now, I would say for the purposes of this particular challenge, what we want to do is set up a practice session, a qualifying session, and a race session. So let's try and keep it simple. For practice, I'm going to say we want 20 minutes because we want enough time to actually familiarize ourselves with the car and track combination and get up to speed. Qualifying, we can either set laps or time. What we're going to do is laps, and I'm going to set it to 2 laps. And then for our race, we're going to start with a simple 8-lap race. Obviously, you can pick whatever you want for these settings, but I'm trying to keep it fairly short and sweet to start with. Enough time to actually learn and get comfortable, but we're not starting with a 2-hour endurance race, for example, because we need to work out a few things first. So the next page here is choosing a car, and just like we've done so far in this series, you want to pick something that's not too crazy, not ridiculously powerful. I'd recommend, again, going for rear-wheel drive, low power, for the time being. Obviously, we're going to look at other cars later down the line, but I would recommend something like a GT86, GR86, or a Mazda MX-5. So we're going to go with the MX-5 Cup, which is a great car on iRacing. Pick a track that you are already at this point a little bit familiar with. I'm going to go with Okayama International. It's a fun little circuit, and I don't race it very often, but I really enjoy it when I do, so we're going to go with that. Then with iRacing, we've got a bunch of other settings that aren't going to matter too much at this point. We're going to go with a standing start, fast repairs, parade laps, whether they're short or not, wave rounds. All these things don't really matter at this stage. Time of day also doesn't really matter, just leave it on whatever the default setting is. Same with weather, I'd recommend sticking with static weather, dry conditions. Rain is another totally different thing that we're going to get to maybe in an intermediate guide series in future. The final important setting, however, is your AI opponent setting. So this should be an option in most games that you play. You should be able to set a difficulty level for your AI. And to start with, we're going to start safe. We're going to start with a low AI percentage. We can always raise this if you're finding that they're too easy to beat. That's something we're actually going to cover in the exercise towards the end of this video. With iRacing, however, we can choose first of all the number of AI drivers, pick something around about 20. It doesn't really matter at this point, but you want a reasonable number to fill up the grid. We're making sure we've got the MX-5 2016 selected as our opponent so that everyone's going to be in the same type of car. And then down the bottom here, we've got something called skill spread. So this is essentially your difficulty level slider. Different games are going to have different numbers here. Sometimes it's a percentage from 0 to 100, and 100 is, very, very fast. Sometimes the lowest you can get to is like 80, for example, and the max is 120 for whatever reason. So you're going to need to work this out for your particular game. Here in iRacing, you don't just pick one number as an AI difficulty level, you actually pick a spread. And if you look on the top right here of this section, when I move this number, you can see the little term changing. So we can go up to 125% on iRacing, which says it's cheaters difficulty. Aliens, then above 90%. Pros between 80 and 90. Actually between 70 and 90. Hot shoes, and then amateurs. For this session, since this is a beginner's guide, what I'd recommend doing is starting low, as I said. So for us, I would say around 50%. It still says amateurs, but it's close to heading towards hot shoes. So what I'm going to do is create a little bit of a spread. I'm going to go 55% as the maximum difficulty and 45 as the minimum. It just means that the AI drivers are going to be anywhere between 45% difficulty and 55% difficulty. We're going to hit continue, and then our race on iRacing is ready to go. So our 20-minute practice session is underway, and there are 4 main objectives we want to achieve with a practice session. First of all, we want to familiarise ourselves with the car and track combo. Secondly, we want to try and exploit some lap time, try and find out how to go faster with this particular combo. The third thing is getting comfortable running with other cars out on circuit. And then fourth, we're going to practice some other little bits and pieces that are going to help us in the race. Okay, so let's get out on circuit then. Not speed in the pit lane. And you can see that in the mirror we're clear, so we can start driving around the track. So objective number 1 then is getting comfortable with the car and track combination. Now, this is where you're going to apply all of the things you've learned up to this point with the Beginner's Guide series. So we're obviously going to let the tires warm up a little bit. We're going to start slowly and then build up towards a faster lap time eventually. So the first thing you're going to be doing is working out your braking reference points, getting familiar with the track itself, and obviously trying to learn your ideal racing line in this particular car. Now, assuming you picked a circuit that you are already vaguely familiar with, then the main thing is really going to be picking out your ideal braking points. But of course, like with all of these things, it's not necessarily about being very fast at this early stage. It's about getting comfortable, it's about staying in control and keeping your car in between the white lines. Because that is going to be the first priority, getting around safely, and then from there, we're going to build speed on top of it. I obviously already know this Okayama circuit. I already know the Mazda MX-5 pretty well. So for me, I'm just going to warm up my tires, and then I'm going to be looking for, where can I brake a little bit later for each individual corner. I'm going to be marking out my reference points at the side of the circuit like we were doing in part 2 of this series. So I'm just getting on the accelerator a little bit earlier out of the corners, braking a little bit later each time, and just trying to get up to speed. But obviously, the other thing we're going to be considering in this session and practice is you're going to have other cars around you. So we've got AI cars setting lap times, as you can hear from our race engineer. And we haven't seen anyone else on circuit, but we are going to eventually see some other cars. So now, a couple of laps in, we found ourselves in and amongst a pack here. There's a Mazda right in front of us. There's another one that's 3 seconds up the road. So this is our first experience of running with someone else on track. Now, obviously, the first thing you notice is your visibility is very much obscured. You can't see the circuit in front of you in the same way that you can when you're on your own. That is, of course, inevitable. So you've just got to be really careful you don't run into the back of the cars around you. Obviously it's an AI car, so running into the back of them is not going to do anyone any damage, but obviously we're learning to try and race safely around other cars. So it's getting comfortable with being able to still recognize your braking point whilst you have a car in front of you. So perhaps it's about lifting and braking a little bit early for the corner just to make sure. Perhaps it's about ducking out and being able to look around the other car just to make sure you can see where you are on circuit. And obviously having reference points outside of the circuit vicinity, things like marker boards or, you know, painted walls and stuff on the side, you're going to be able to still see them even if you are right behind someone else. Now what this also does is provides us with an opportunity to practice actually racing another car before the race itself. So I'm beginning to get up to speed a little bit with this combination. I'm beginning to feel comfortable with the Mazda around Okayama. And now we're going to think about passing another car. So what we don't want to do is do a very late lunge down the inside like that, because what's going to inevitably happen is you're going to get on the wrong line, you're going to lock up, and you're probably going to crash into the other car. So we want to try and plan a move. Now this can either be a decisive late braking maneuver down the inside where you're going to comfortably get past the other car without stressing, like this for example. So I know that I can get past him. In fact, I still got a little bit sideways at the entrance to the corner there, so perhaps that wasn't the best move. But if you're decisive and confident about it, you can get through without crashing into the other driver. The other thing, of course, is making that overtake when you're on a straight. So if you've got the speed to pass the AI car coming out of a corner and pass them on the straight, you're going to be okay heading into the next one. So this Mazda is coming back down the inside. We're going to make sure we leave him at least a car's width on the inside, so we're not going to squeeze him and force him off the track. I say he, it's actually Lisa Hudson, and Lisa has got back past us. So this right now is just great practice, because me and Lisa, the AI driver, seem fairly closely matched on speed. I'm able to practice some overtakes as Lisa gets sideways there, and I'm also able to practice, you know, having a car right behind me as well and having cars trying to make overtakes. All of this is going to come in very handy when you start racing online. So I'm going to try and get a better exit than Lisa this time. We're going to pull alongside, and if I can get past on the straight, it makes the overtake a lot easier.
Still there.
I've just got to wait until I'm fully past before I retake my racing line. In that case, I didn't get clear quick enough, so I'm going to brake on the inside line. And we've got another car now, Randy, out of the pits in front of us. So this is all going to help you gain experience and learn how to race with other people around you.
Right side.
On iRacing, we've also got a spotter in my ear telling you when we're alongside someone. It tells you if they're still next to you, if they're behind you. It'll say all clear when we can actually cut across them.
Clear.
There we are. So now it's clear. I know I'm far enough ahead, and I've got that position as well. So we've covered track and car familiarization. We've covered, you know, learning to go a little bit quicker and finding later braking points. And we've also had a little bit of experience now with racing against other cars and getting comfortable with driving close to other cars on circuit. The last thing we want to achieve from a practice session is basically a combination of miscellaneous things. Is there anything else that we need to know about this race? Well, for example, is it a pit stop race? Do we need to practice a pit stop and a pit lane entry and make sure that we can get on the pit limiter fast enough, don't speed, don't crash into the walls, etc.? Also, we know that this race is a standing start, so why not take this opportunity to actually practice a standing start? As long as you pull off of the main racing line, we can go down into neutral. Now, if you have a clutch, you can do a proper clutch-based start where you're in first gear and you release the clutch. But since we don't have a clutch, we're keeping it simple for this. What you can do is rev the car in neutral, get up to a point you're about happy with, about 3/4 of the way up the rev range, and then when the green light comes on, select first gear. Now, as you can hear, we bogged down a little bit there. The engine basically cut out. So we're going to do another one. We're going to select neutral. This time, I'm just going to keep my foot fully on the throttle, and we're going to keep it pinned as we select first gear. It bogged down again. We're going to do another practice start now on the exit of the pit lane. So once again, I'm going to raise the revs in neutral, and then I'm going to select first gear. And with no clutch, unfortunately, this car bogs down. So it's going to be the same for everyone. In the race, in this Mazda MX-5, from a standing start, we're just going to have to deal with that. And the car's going to bog down, but theoretically, if it's a standing start and that's what this car does, if the gear ratios are set that way, then everyone's probably going to bog down at the start, so it's not something to worry about too much. So a few failed attempts at a practice start. We're not going to be pitting in this race, so we don't need to practice our pit lane entry, things like that. We can just focus on being out on circuit, running with the AI cars, and basically we're just going to use these 20 minutes to continue to get faster, continue to learn, and continue to get comfortable.
on your left.
And next, it's going to be time for qualifying.
Keep to the right.
So, qualifying has begun, but some of you may be wondering what qualifying actually is. Well, basically, qualifying is the session that determines the grid order for the race. Everyone goes out and sets a lap time. The fastest lap time puts you at the front of the grid. The slowest lap time puts you at the back of the grid. So it's essentially a way of grading all of the drivers and deciding where to start on the grid. Obviously, the faster you go in qualifying, the higher up the grid you're going to be, the better your chances are of winning the race. So we're clicking the qualify button, starting in the pit lane, and I have set this so that we get 2 laps to do a qualifying time. Obviously, this could be a 10-minute session, it could be a 20-minute session, 1-hour session, it could be one single lap. It totally depends on how you've set it up. And also, it's worth noting for qualifying, on iRacing specifically, you have a kind of private session, so it's just me out on the circuit. All of the AI cars are going to set lap times, but they're essentially all in their own little private server. It's just me against the circuit on this one, and then all of our lap times will be put into a leaderboard together. On other titles, that may not be an option. You may be doing, let's say, an open qualifying session where every car is on circuit at the same time. So not only have you got to think about setting a good lap time, you've also got to worry about traffic getting in the way as well. So that's something to bear in mind. So my simple objective here is to get the tyres warmed up on my out lap, and then to set as fast a qualifying lap as possible. I've got 2 attempts at it, and obviously I'm using everything I've learned during the practice session to try and go as quick as I can. But also I want to keep things nice and neat and tidy and keep things safe. So if you've got 2 laps, what I'd recommend doing is setting a banker lap on the first one, basically a safe lap that's going to keep you within the white lines for sure and give you a solid lap time. And then for the second lap, you can push a little bit harder, knowing you've got that safety net, trying to set a bit of a faster lap time and seeing how high up the grid you can actually get. If at this point you're miles faster and way ahead of the AI drivers, the AI setting's probably too low and you're going to want to raise that for the next session that you do. If you're qualifying somewhere in the middle or maybe towards the bottom of the grid, it might be that you leave the setting as it is, or maybe you actually want to make the AI a little easier just so you can get closer to them and practice actually racing with them properly. So I'm just setting a nice safe banker lap at the moment. I'm braking nice and early just to make sure we're all under control. I'm not doing anything too fancy, not being too aggressive with my inputs, and it's a slightly slower lap than my fastest practice lap at the moment, but it's going to get us a safe lap time in the bank, and then we can push a bit more on the next one. Okay, so we're coming up to the line, and it's going to be a 1 minute 49.3. So now, on my second qualifying lap, let's push a bit harder, take a few more risks, and see if we can go a bit faster. Okay, so out of the last corner, we're going to see what lap time we can do. We're currently faster than our fastest lap so far. It's going to be, as we cross the line, I don't know. The tension is palpable. Let's check our results page. There we are, we've done a 1:48.315, so we're actually 3rd on the grid. It looks very, very close, so it looks like at this point I'd be thinking, okay, the AI level is pretty good. I've qualified 3rd. I do think, though, I could go a bit faster, so maybe it would be beneficial next time to take the AI level up a little bit and give myself a bit more of a challenge. Okay, it's finally time for our first race. It's an 8-lap race here around Okayama. Now you can see on iRacing, I've got a big green button that says grid, and it's got a countdown, so that tells me how long I've got until the race starts. So I need to make sure I click that button before the timer runs out and get onto the grid. Obviously, in your chosen game, it may just be an option to begin the race. I'm going to click on that now, and there we are on the grid.
Plenty of fuel to finish the race.
So I've now got some lights on the gantry below the mirror and also on the screen. We know that we're going to go full revs because the car's going to bog down. And as you can see, the AI car's all bogged down as well. So obviously these cars aren't designed for standing starts, but away we go. We've begun our first race.
Right side. The next car's the leader. Still there.
And
hold your line.
what you're going to find is when you do your first race, instantly everything's going to get a little bit intense. My engineer is obviously shouting things in my ear, telling me where the cars are around me. And basically our main goal here is, kind of like it was in practice, to get comfortable driving with other cars on circuit. but it's also to learn a little bit of racecraft and try and get through safely and in one piece. We want to obviously get as good a result as we can, but the main focus is going to be keeping the car within the white lines, not making any crazy mistakes, and importantly not crashing into the other cars. We want to try and keep things as clean as possible, and we'll let the race come to us. So in this first lap, we've settled into 3rd position, which is where we qualified. Obviously, you've got cars around you, but you need to be careful to keep on picking your break points like you were in the practice session. Nothing really changes in terms of how the car and the track's going to be. You're obviously on cold tyres, but you just need to remember that despite everything that's going on around you, you're going to have to still pick out those braking points and make sure you don't miss it, because obviously this time if you make a mistake, you're probably going to crash into the back of another car. You also want to be glancing at your mirror every so often just to make sure there's not another car trying to dive down the inside or go around the outside of you. We're close to the 2nd place car now, so I'm just going to lift off a little bit before the apex just to make sure I don't run into the back of them. And at this point, just relax, just try and have fun and enjoy a bit of racing. So we now do actually have a car, the 85 of Cisco Scaramuza, down the inside of us. So he's going to go for a move. I didn't defend that too hard, I'm going to let him go for now. He's pulled off the overtake, so now I'm going to think about how I'm going to get him back. Now, the finer details of racecraft is not something I'm going to go into in this particular video. This is literally us just getting started with our first race. But obviously, you're going to want to learn things like attacking, defending, overtaking, how to take advantage of, the positioning of the other cars, forcing drivers into mistakes. You can see there, Cisco's going defensive by holding the inside line. That's something we could have done against them to try and defend our position earlier. But at the moment, it's not going to be about all of those details. If you see an opportunity coming like this where you get a bit more speed, just put your car on the inside, make sure you still brake in time. Always try and leave a car's width for the other car to be able to fit without forcing them off the circuit. And just see if you can pick your way past the cars that you're racing with. We'll see what we can do out of this last corner, so I'm going to put the power on now. See if I can get a better exit than Cisco. We're going to take a little bit of a slipstream, so if you follow the car in front directly behind, he's actually punching a hole in the air for you and you can go faster. So we're going to take the slipstream. He's defending the inside, so we're going to go to the outside. We're going to use our braking references, and we've done it. So we've gone past Cisco under braking on the way into that corner, and we're back up to 3rd. Now I've got a little bit of breathing space between me and Tyler and Sean out in front, so now it's just time to focus in, pretend it's qualifying, and see if I can catch up with the front two. They're having a good battle out in front, that's going to help. Obviously, if the cars around you are battling, they usually lose a little bit of time, because if you're battling, you're side by side, you're holding each other up into and out of the corners. When you're on your own, you can just focus on picking out your reference points, using the curbs, hitting your apexes, and normally it's faster that way, so it's always nice when you see cars in front of you battling. It's just a sign that you're going to be able to try and catch them. And then obviously as soon as you do catch them, you're going to get slowed up too in the battle. So then it's about picking out your places to make the move, find out where they're weak, and if you can pick out the sections of track where you're faster than them in advance, you're going to be able to plan out your overtakes a little bit better. So this time we're not as close as we were on the last lap into the first corner. We've set the fast lap because we've had some clean traffic. So we're not going to go for the move here, but we'll think of something else against Sean. Once again, just lifting off slightly there before the corner so I don't run straight into the back of him. Keeping my nose clean. I've avoided all contact so far. We've not gone off the circuit at all. And again, that's what you're trying to achieve with this first race. Can we fit down the inside? Now I'm going to go for a decisive braking overtake maneuver here, so I'm going to hit the brakes later than Sean is. But I know it's still okay for my reference points.
Still there.
We're going to turn. We've stayed on the circuit. Now I'm watching my mirror just to make sure I don't cut across him. We're going to leave him a bit of room. But Sean's backed off. I've got the move done, and that's me up to P2. Oh, Tyler's defending the inside. So you can see the AI drivers, obviously depending on what game you play, do act in a realistic fashion. So obviously, if I was racing someone in real life, they might try and defend the inside line if they thought I was going to have a run on them. But in some games, the AI cars don't do that very well. They just kind of stay in a train. So it really does depend on whatever game you're playing as to how the AI behave. In iRacing, they do behave realistically in a sense, like a real driver would. Obviously up to a certain level. So once again, Tyler heading to the right-hand side to defend the inside, so we're going to go to the outside. Now I'm going to try and keep him offline here on the way into the corner, and then we'll try and switch back on him on the exit. No, not enough room there, not enough speed. So he's held on for the time being. It's also good practice. Obviously, you don't want to run into the back of cars, and you want to practice that, but racing against AI is the perfect opportunity to practice staying as close as you can to the back of cars without crashing into them. So obviously these Mazda MX-5, you've got bumpers on the front. It's okay if I give them a slight bump here and there, and because it's an AI driver, it's not a real person, I can really get familiar with staying as close as possible to the back of the car and learn my distances. So if I crash into the back of him, I will actually know about it. iRacing is gonna make a sound, and it's gonna tell me if I make contact. So here, if I bump into the back of Tyler, like that, obviously you saw him slide a little bit, and also at the top of the screen you can see car 30 contact. So that means that we made a little bit of contact. So therefore I know at that moment that's how close I can actually get before crashing. And now I need to watch out because Sean is in my mirror, so I'm going to be careful to be watching in my mirror to make sure I'm not blocking Sean, but also watching in front of me so that I don't hit Tyler. And that's when it starts getting difficult. You've got to keep your eyes in two different places at once. And it's all about practicing glancing in the mirror, knowing the moments to check your mirror and make sure you're safe is the key. So for me, I take a glance at the mirror every couple of seconds whilst I'm on the straight, but as I'm coming into a corner like now, I'm focused fully in front of me because it's so easy to get distracted by looking at the mirror too much and miss your braking point. So what I would say is look at the mirror every couple of seconds whilst you're on a straight, and then as you get closer to the corner, fully focus your eyes forward. Another thing that's good to do when you're doing your first races against the AI is to actually assign buttons to allow you to look left and look right. So for me on my steering wheel right now, I've got a couple of buttons that let me look left and right, which I will demonstrate on the straight. So if we pull alongside Tyler here, if I look left, I'm looking out my side window, I can see exactly where Tyler is. And if I look right, obviously I can see the pit wall. And that's really, really useful, especially if you're using a single monitor. It means that you can actually see if you're ahead of someone, if you're alongside them. And it just gives you more bearings. Obviously, on iRacing, you've got a crew chief who tells you when someone's alongside you, but if you don't have that, it's a nice little extra tool to have. If you've got 3 screens, or if you're using VR, obviously you can look to the side a lot easier. But for me on a single screen right now, being able to look left and right is a handy tool. I think Tyler's a little bit vulnerable out of this corner. He seems a bit slower, so what I'm going to do is get the power on early. We're going to see if we can pull alongside on the exit. I'm not quite close enough, but I might be able to stop Tyler from defending. I'm going to go for it later on the brakes.
Car right.
Stay to the inside. Tyler's still alongside me. I can use my look right button to see that he's still there. We're going to leave him space.
Clear on the right.
But I've got a better exit, so we're going to cut to the other side. This is a tricky corner, so I'm going to be careful.
Clear.
It would have been too risky. If I'd have gone in there, I've actually turned my wipers on somehow. If I'd have gone in there and attacked the inside, it probably would have been a little bit too risky.
White flag. Stay smooth.
Right, final lap. Tyler's going defensive, so I'm going to go to the outside.
Clear.
We're going to get the power on early and switch back.
Car on your left. Keep
I
to
can
the
see him in
right.
my mirror, so I'm going to leave a little bit of space still.
Stay on the right.
And there you go. I'm getting
Still
so
there.
much experience and practice now running side by side with another car and not making any contact. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make contact.
Stay on
Now
the
I've got the
right.
inside line for the right-hand hairpin here. And Tyler has backed out. He can't hang
You're on
on,
the left.
and we're into the lead. But all of this race has obviously been great fun for me to battle with these other cars. Tyler's going to be coming back, so I'm going to defend the inside. But also, it's just a good way to learn and get comfortable with other cars around you. Through the last corner. And our 8-lap AI race is complete. I've managed to take the win. And I've had a lot of fun doing it. Now obviously, when you actually go and race online...
The best crew chief.
Okay, very humble crew chief. When you now go and race online, of course, the chances are you're going to be up against faster drivers than maybe a 50% AI driver. That's very true. But that's exactly why it's worth practicing with AI. If I was to do that again now, I think I had the pace on the cars around me. I could now up the difficulty level for my next event and try again and see if I could beat the AI at a harder difficulty level. And all of that is just going to help you prepare for your first online race. Online races are more unpredictable. Real drivers are going to do different things to AI drivers. They're maybe going to be more aggressive. They're going to be more. There's going to be more mistakes, for example. So it's not going to fully prepare you for online racing, but it does give you a sense of how to battle other cars. And I think it's a great place to start for sure. So now let's move on to our exercise for today's video, and it's going to be all about finding the right AI level for you. So So this is going to involve a fair bit of racing, which is always fun, and also a fair bit of trial and error, but trust me, it's worth the hassle. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another single race, just like we did before on your chosen sim. This time we want 20 minutes of practice once again. We're going to turn qualifying off, however, and we're going to lower the race count from whatever laps you had it set to before to just 3 laps for reasons that will become apparent soon. Pick another similar style of car that you're semi-familiar with. I am going a bit rogue and going for the Ford Mustang on iRacing. And then for a track, again, you want to pick something you are vaguely or fairly familiar with, but you've never actually raced against other cars before. I'm just going to go for this example with Brands Hatch. Leave all of the other settings as they are. We don't need to worry about those. The only one we do need to worry about, however, is AI opponents. Now, once again, I want to make sure that all of the opponents are driving the same car as me. I'm sticking to around about 20 as a number. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to try and find our ideal AI difficulty level. So I'm going to get rid of any spread and we're going to just keep the number to 1%. So obviously this is going to be completely different for every individual. So you just need to repeat the process that I'm going to go through, but for your own parameters. So we're going to start off with 45% AI difficulty level. And I'm going to do this race and I'm going to see how I get on. So first things first, of course, you're going to go out for practice and you're going to familiarize yourself with the layout, get comfortable with the car and track, and obviously find your performance. So just like we did before, get up to speed, find your correct braking zones, get to as fast a pace as you are comfortable with and can stay on the circuit. Then, once the 20 minutes are up or you are happy with your pace, you can advance to the race session. Now what we're going to do here is deliberately start from the pit lane. So in iRacing, to do that, you click on the grid button and then you immediately hold escape and then you miss the start. So it says miss start up there, we can click that button and now we're starting from the pit lane. So this is what we want. The race is going to begin without us on the left-hand side. And then we're going to be released into the field and we're going to join the back of the pack. There we go. So the whole pack's safely through. Now the purpose of this is to see in the 3 laps where we stack up relative to the AI. Can we catch them very easily? Can we pass them very easily? I mean, already in turn 2, I've caught up to the rear of the cars. It's not a massive surprise that the AI slow each other up on the opening lap just because they're all bunched together. But now the question is, how quickly can we get past them?
You're on the left, 3 wide. Car right, 2 wide. Still there, hold your line.
So I got a little bit pinched there, but we've passed 2 cars.
Car right.
Down the inside again now, and quite easily
On the left. Clear on the right.
passed another couple, bit of contact there. I'm seeing cars braking in a straight line up ahead.
Car on your left. Clear. Car on your left. Stay on the right. Clear. Car on your left.
So as you can see, I am dicing through the
Still
field.
there. Clear.
I was dicing through the field.
Looks like your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane.
My car may be toast, but I learned what I needed to learn. I was faster than the AI, I caught them immediately, was able to pass 1 or 2 cars a corner. Yes, it resulted in a crash, but you could see quite quickly there that the AI level was a little bit too low for me personally. So now what I'm going to do is quit, and we're going to try again with a higher AI level. So we'll create another race weekend. This time we're going to turn off practice because we're already up to speed with this combo. And clearly this AI difficulty level was too easy for me. I was catching them, passing them very easy. I think I might be the best sim racer in the world. So next we're going to try a maximum of 125% and see how we get on. So same again, we're starting from the pit lane. The race starts without us. Let's see what happens this time. Yep, I am not the best sim racer in the world because as you can see, even though they're all bunched up and holding each other up, I'm still actually losing ground to all of the cars up ahead.
Two left to go. 2 to go.
Yeah, I'm trying very hard, but it's just not happening. So we repeat the process once again. This time we'll go for a percentage more in the middle. And let's see what happens on our 3rd attempt. So we have caught the pack early, which is fine. They were all bunched up.
Hold your line. Still there.
We'll see how pace is once they kind of settle down a little bit and find their rhythm.
Clear.
Okay, so this time we're in the pack, and we're having to brake a little bit early, but everyone's in a queue, so that's kind of natural. Having to push the car to try and keep up with the cars around me. But this instantly, I'm only on the first lap, and it instantly feels like a more natural race. I feel like I'm up against a relatively similar level of driver quality. I think I am faster. I think I can get through at this early stage, but it's not easy for me. And that's kind of a nice level to be at when you're racing against the AI. Let's try an inside move into Paddock Hill. So again, he wasn't crazy early on the brakes. I had to work for it. We did touch a little, but I just managed to pull off the overtake. Obviously, as we move on to the second and third laps, the AI cars start to settle down more into more of a rhythm. They spread out a little bit. And I think this looks like a pretty good level for me to be able to race against them. Maybe if I was taking part in qualifying and doing some setup work, I would up the level a little bit. But as a fun AI race to just try and learn a combination and get comfortable, this is a really nice level. So that's what you need to do, but for your own level. You need to just find that spot where you feel like racing against the AI cars feels like a challenge, but not an insurmountable one. And you will quickly begin to feel like you're actually taking part in a real race. I do want to hear from you guys down in the comments below how you get on with this exercise. Let me know if you're enjoying the series, finding it useful. The support so far has been great, and it's fantastic to hear so many of you have been finding this series useful. And obviously we look forward to bringing you more and more episodes in the future. Do subscribe to the Traxion channel if you haven't already, so that you don't miss any future uploads, whether it's this Beginner's Guide series or other series or anything really to do with racing games and sim racing. And you can join our paddock by joining our Discord server. All of the information is in the description below, just like the information about trophi.ai, the sponsors of this video. So once again, a big thanks to them, a big thanks to you for watching, and until I see you again next time, good luck with your racing, and have a great day.